Deloitte Deep Briefs Tax webcast series in Asia Pacific. Our webcast today is from our Geography Update series, and the topic is China Electronic VAT Special Invoices, a milestone of tax digital revolution. The implementation of electronic VAT special invoices is one of the most significant tasks for the Chinese government. With the recent expansion of the e-special VAT invoices pilot to all newly established taxpayers nationwide, it is expected that the pilot will be rolled out to existing taxpayers soon this year. The launch of the e-special VAT invoices would bring both opportunities and challenges to enterprises. My name is Lily Li, and I'm a tax partner based in our Deloitte China, Shanghai office. I have the pleasure of hosting today's webcast. I have two speakers with me today, Candy Tang and Roger Chu. Candy is a tax partner based in Deloitte China, Shanghai office. Roger is a tax senior manager based in Shanghai office as well. You may access our bios on the left side of the screen. Before I introduce the agenda for today's webcast, I would like to take a moment to highlight some of the features of our webcast console. Firstly, all users are on listen-only mode. If you have any content-related questions, you can submit at any time in the Q&A box at the bottom right of the screen. We will do our best to respond to your questions during the presentation. Secondly, all PC users can maximize or minimize each box at your convenience during the webcast. You may also explore the icons at the bottom of the screen. If you want to download today's slides and the related publications, please go to the Downloads and the Links box. On the other hand, mobile device users can view the slides and answer the survey on screen. Thirdly, if you require an attendance record for this event, you can download your CPE certificate by clicking the Request CPE icon at the bottom of the webcast console. Okay, now let me give you an overview of the topics we will discuss today. The background introduction, opportunities and challenges to the enterprises, system solution, case sharing, questions and answers. Okay, before we start introducing the background of the China Electronic VAT Special Invoice, let's do the first polling question of the day. The question is, have you paid attention to the new special VAT invoice program in China? And your options are active attention, general attention, wait and see, not clear, don't know, or not applicable. Okay, while we are waiting for the results to come in, I have a question to Candy. Hi, Candy. We know that the electronic general VAT invoice has been implementing for years. Why the electronic special VAT invoice program gets so many attention in China?
Yes, Lily. This is a very interesting question. In China, there are two types of VAT invoices. One is called general invoice, which you mentioned. That one cannot be used to claim input VAT credit and normally issued in B2C business. The other is called the VAT special invoice, which we will talk about today. The special invoice are issued normally in B2B business and can be used to claim input VAT credit. Hence, the implementation of the electronic VAT special invoices will attract almost all the attention of the companies in China and affect their business. And therefore, we should see whether our audience also paid attention to this one.
Okay. Then now the results come out. 20% active attention, 32% general attention. We can see close to 9%, not clear. 25% don't know, or 20 don't know or not applicable is 12.5%. Okay, so the result is different from our survey in China. So a little bit lower figures for the active attention and the general attention. But in overall, we have more than 50% have paid active attention or general attention. For this program, actually, it is indeed an important matter to affect all the enterprises in China. For those we can see and not clear, don't know or not applicable, so I suggest you to talk to your advisors as early as possible, because it is expected to launch within this year. The company may not have enough time to prepare. Okay, now let me to invite Candy to brief the background of the program. Over to you, Candy.
Yeah, sure, Lily. In this slide, we have drawn a diagram to show you the development of the electronic VAT special invoices in China. As you can see from this diagram, the e-special invoices started from 2019 and went on pilot in 2020. Now, all newly established taxpayers in China have joined the pilot, while it is generally expected that the existing taxpayers will join this pilot soon by end of this year, 2021. The paper invoices will be running in parallel for 1 year's time and then phased out. Also, you can see from this diagram that the Chinese tax authorities have built an e-invoice public service platform which can be accessed and used by taxpayers to handle e-invoices, such as the invoice issuance, printing, delivery, searching, etc. In addition, the tax authorities have also opened access to their platform to third-party licensed companies. The taxpayers can use the third-party licensed companies channel to get access to the Tax Bureau service platform to automate the e-invoice generation. We will share with you more information on this later. Then let's look at how the electronic VAT special invoices look like and the difference with the existing paper invoices. First of all, the electronic VAT special invoice is a new type of VAT invoice and can be used by taxpayers to claim input VAT credit. The e-special VAT invoices would be issued through a public service platform built by the Chinese tax authorities. One point to note is that the e-special invoice would be issued in a new format called OFD, which is newly developed by the Chinese tax authorities. This is different from the current e-general invoice, which is issued in a PDF format. The taxpayers need to download the OFD reader from the government online platform to open and read the e-special VAT invoices. Compared with the traditional PDF format, the OFD file has the advantages of smaller size, so less storage space, and also easier to extract data and do the auto posting and other subsequent treatments. However, the main challenges to the multinational company is that this OFD file is yet to be supported by the global systems like SAP, Oracle, etc., and therefore a converter or other IT solutions would need to be adopted to open, read, and process the OFD e-special VAT invoices in China. Now, let's take a look at the main differences of a traditional paper VAT special invoice and the electronic VAT special invoice. First of all, the name of the two invoices on the top are different. From the invoice name, people can easily tell which one is the electronic one. Secondly, the name of the supply description is simplified from the name of goods or taxable service to item name. You can see the green highlight here. Thirdly, on the electronic VAT special invoice, the invoice code, number, and the invoicing date are all moved together to the top right corner, and the verification code is also added. Lastly, there is no physical invoice chop required on an electronic VAT special invoice. Instead, there will be an e-signature automatically stamped on each electronic VAT special invoice upon issuance. Then let's look at why this e-special invoice program has attracted so much attention in China. In our view, the launch of the electronic VAT special invoice is a big drive of the digitalization of tax administration in China. This would not only affect taxpayers, but also the supervisors, who are the tax authorities, and also the market players. This will actually affect the whole ecosystem of the parties, who we draw on the right-hand side of this slide. From the government authorities' perspective, the China tax authorities have been controlling tax with the VAT invoices for years. They have already developed the golden tax system to help monitor the tax status of the taxpayers and identify potential issues through the big data analysis. With the digitalization of the VAT invoice data, it will bring the tax administration into a digital era and enable the tax authorities to do more big data analysis and effective risk findings. From the company's perspective, this e-invoicing will certainly bring saving opportunities, at least on the delivery cost for mailing invoices to their customers. One client told me, based on their initial assessment, the saving on the delivery cost can be as high as several million RMB a year, which is a very significant amount. Moreover, companies can also use this opportunity to optimize the internal operation procedures and enhance controls, which we will elaborate later. Lastly, in terms of the market players, one big change is that the Chinese tax authorities have opened the door to more suppliers instead of the two traditional ones. Hence, the companies would have more qualified vendors to choose. Now let's look at the e-invoices, how the e-invoices can be issued. In general, there are three methods provided by Tax Bureau. The first option is to use the government's public service platform, which I mentioned earlier. This platform is free of charge, but can only be operated manually. Hence, this option is generally suitable to small companies only. Instead, for certain very large companies or large groups, they may select to build up their own system to connect to the government portal to automate the e-invoicing generation. It allows the company to highly customize the VAT invoice system for its own business scenarios, and also keep the invoice data within the company for confidentiality considerations. However, it requires strong IT and maintenance capability, and the cost can be high in terms of hardware and software investment and afterwards maintenance. The option in the middle is to use a third-party channel which is licensed by the Tax Bureau to connect to the government portal to automate the e-invoice generation. The third-party channel is able to apply standard third-party tax control interface services, while can also satisfy most common scenarios with the customized items. The cost is much lower than option 3 and generally affordable to most of the companies. With this channel, the companies are also able to centralize the VAT invoices by their own shared service center or third-party service providers for efficiency purposes. This e-invoice program is highly expected in China because there are lots of opportunities to the taxpayers. As you can see from this slide, the opportunities are not as simple as reducing the delivery cost for mailing invoices, which I mentioned earlier, but also on the shared services, big data analysis, and even tax digital management evolution. For example, with the launch of the e-invoices, there is no restriction to issue VAT invoice locally. Hence, it is possible for group companies or chain operation business to centralize the VAT invoices in one location, which can help significantly reduce costs and control quality. With the invoice centralization, it is also possible to expand to tax shared services, as the tax compliance in China is heavily relying on invoices. Moreover, with the e-invoice data, it would be more efficient to do accounting booking and electronic archiving. We consider this will definitely boost the automation solution of both finance and tax in future. Now let's take a detailed look at the invoice centralization management. Under the current China VAT rules, the blank paper VAT invoices have to be purchased from the local tax bureau and cannot be shipped across provinces. Hence, companies have to issue VAT invoices in their office locally. However, with the launch of electronic VAT special invoices, the invoices can be issued online and there is no restriction on the location. This change is warmly welcomed by many group companies or chain operators because they want to centralize everything and do not need to dedicate local resources to handle the VAT invoice locally. For example, I have a client who is operating chain restaurants in China. They have more than 5,000 restaurants in different locations. They are now using the external vendors or even their local cashiers to handle the VAT invoice, which are not ideal. Now, they are very interested in exploring the option to centralize the VAT invoices in their headquarters for all restaurants in China, which can help them save several millions costs and also mitigate tax risks due to improper handling of VAT invoices by their local people. Moreover, the companies can develop a standard process and rules for China VAT invoice issuance for all entities within the group. The companies can also deploy certain IT solutions to help automate the process to the extent possible for the whole group. With the centralization of VAT invoices, the companies can explore the centralization of tax filing and tax management as well. So the launch of the electronic VAT invoices actually opens the door to the tax shared service model, which has been looking for by many big multinational companies in the past few years. One step further, the companies can also evaluate the option of outsourcing the invoice generation and even the whole tax compliance work to a professional firm if they can offer a more cost-effective solution. Another big opportunity that can be envisaged by using the e-invoicing is the big data analysis. We have commented the big data analysis conducted by the Chinese tax authorities earlier, while the companies now also have the chance to use the electronic form invoice data to do the analysis and get better prepared for the potential challenges or questions from the tax bureau. Moreover, companies can also leverage the invoice data to do various business analysis. For example, the tax burden analysis, transfer pricing analysis, sales performance analysis, cost analysis, etc. The big data analysis can also help facilitate the business decisions. Recently, we have many clients coming to us expressing the interest of better utilizing the e-invoicing data to better manage tax matters and empower business decisions, especially the auto companies who would like to have more transparency on their retail prices and local promotional activities by collecting and reviewing the invoicing information issued by their distributors and 4S stores. Some big state-owned companies in China are also looking for solutions to better utilize electronic invoicing data to enhance their tax risk management and control. We consider this topic will continue to be developed in the next couple of years. Lastly, we would like to highlight that the e-invoicing is not just a matter for the company itself, but also matters all parties through the whole supply chain. Hence, if the e-invoicing can be handled properly, this can also help strengthen the relationship with the customers and suppliers. For example, with the invoice going electronically, the invoice issuance process can be sped up, and the invoice delivery can be done in a minute without any delay. After the invoice being issued and delivered, the payment can be made sooner, as many companies only release the payment upon receiving the valid VAT invoices in China. On the other hand, we have also seen in recent years that many companies have established a supplier collaboration platform to align the invoice information with the suppliers, such as the invoice amount, name of supply, unit price, etc., before issuing the invoice to avoid any mistakes or errors. In future, after the alignment of invoicing information between the contract parties is done, the e-invoices can be sent through such platform directly to facilitate the whole process. Every coin has two sides. We have looked at the benefits that can be brought by the electronic VAT special invoices, while we now need to look at the challenges as well. Based on our observations, almost all companies are concerned whether they would have enough time to get prepared for this e-invoice program. As mentioned earlier, the timeline to roll out this e-special invoice pilot to all existing companies is yet to be announced by the government. However, based on the past experience, the detailed rules may come into effect in 1 or 2 months after issuance, which leaves very little time for the companies to adjust their process, system, and labor force to get prepared for the new changes. In this regard, many big companies have already started the preparation work. For example, some companies have conducted a gap analysis to identify the gaps between the as-is process and the future to-be process, and map out the work needed to fix the gaps. For example, which gap can be fixed by changing the process, which gap can be fixed by using system solutions, which gap can be fixed with manpower. This gap analysis actually forms the basis for the future work. We also see some companies have already applied budgets to do the work, interviewed and selected the vendors, while some have even already started the system development work, because the system work generally takes several months to be completed. So if your company has not started, or at least thinking of the changes and the work to be done, you are strongly recommended to do so. Another big challenge is the difficulty to utilize big data to better manage the tax and dealing with tax bureau's audit or inspections. As we discussed earlier, the big data analysis is one of the major opportunities that would be brought through the e-invoicing program, while how to grasp this opportunity may not be easy and take time and efforts to develop. In terms of the sequence of the work to be done, to get prepared for the new changes would be the first priority, followed by the development of the big data analysis, which would bring the real benefits to the company. That's all for my part. Lily, back to you. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Candy. Let's do the second polling question of the day. The question is, what's your view on how digital solutions can enable tax management and compliance capability in your company? And your options are very helpful, helpful, unhelpful, have not adopted yet, or don't know, not applicable. So while we are waiting for the results to come in, I have a question to Roger. Hi, Roger. I know you have been assisting lots of clients in the system implementation. In your observation, what are the most attractive themes of the digital solution to the enterprises?
Thanks, Lily. Thanks, Lily. This is Roger.
Yes,
based on our observation, we found that the most promising part will be centralizing the FAPL issuance process. As Candy already mentioned, in the future when the electronic invoice is coming, there will be no restriction to say that the invoice has to be issued within the local site. So we feel if the company can have some standardized process and also introduce some system that can support such shared service mode, it will be fully enjoyable that the benefit of the electronic invoice. And back to Lily.
Okay, thanks, Roger. Okay, the results are available now. 24%, very helpful. Helpful is 43%. 0 for unhelpful. Have not adopted yet is 25%. Don't know, 7.3%. Okay, yes, a majority audience says that it do help. So it is in line with our understanding. So how the digital solutions help and how many solutions are available? Okay, let me invite Roger to tell you. Hi, Roger, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Lily. And thanks everyone to be online and join the debrief session. So today we will introduce a little bit about the digital solutions in order to meet the new change when the e-invoicing is coming in China. For most of the companies, there will be 3 options to consider. The first thing coming to your mind maybe is to upgrade your existing system, such as SAP, Concur, Oracle, or any other FAPL processing system. However, based on our communication with lots of our clients, this will maybe not the most ideal way, especially for those multinational companies, because it's quite costly to handle the local requirements on some global IT platform. It will cost a lot extra communication with multi-parties in order to make this work. So we would also recommend the companies to consider the other 2 ways, which is more standalone and only specific for China localized requirements, such as RPA. For those of you who are not familiar with RPA, it's just a program which can simulate human action in your computer, which makes it very rapid and focused on the job to do, and it does not require too much investment and change on the existing IT systems. However, it's a feasible solution, but for the long run, the company may have a more comprehensive solution, such as to introduce a standalone application which can manage the end-to-end process of invoicing management. And this will also give you a single repository of data of any tax-related data in this database. So it will help you to face the inspection and audit requirements from the tax bureau. It also gives you a very high tolerance to handle large amounts of data. So if you are handling thousands of invoices every day or 10,000 of invoices every month, you may consider to have some standalone application instead of a single RPA. That's our observation. And next slide, please. Some of our clients already started the journal of e-invoicing, and our team has provided some service like RPA and the Digital T-Suite, which is an end-to-end management platform of China tax, not only focusing on the management of invoice, but also have some data analytics and tax filing management purpose. And from the left side, you'll see the module of invoice management is only part of the total T-Suite solution, and it will be a very good start point to make your tax management automated and effective. And on the right side, the RPA solution is very lightweight, and we already see some of our clients going live in only several weeks. In next page, please. So in the next few slides, we will walk you through 4 main scenarios that may be related with the e-invoice in China. The first scenario will be the Fapiao issuance, and also we will go back to the purchasing side for the vendor payment and also the reimbursement from your employees. And last but not least, we will talk a little bit about accounting document filing requirements. Next page, please. So the first and a very promising thing is about the Fapiao issuance. So if we want to introduce some digital solution, we need to think about the following 3 key points. The first thing is how well can you prepare the data that is required to issue the e-Fapiao. We need at least some additional fields like the invoice type, as Candy mentioned in the very beginning. There will be a new invoice type, so you need to tell the system or the digital solution which type of invoice you are going to issue, because there will be still a parallel period when you have both paper and electronic version. And moreover, you may have also collect some data from your clients that how they want to receive the invoice by email or if they want to receive this by some SMS service. And after the data are collected and prepared, you will have to connect with the golden tax system, which is the tax bureau system to issue the electronic Fapiao. And during this interface, you will also need to upgrade your current invoice issuance device from the traditional golden tax plate or tax control plate to a new device called tax U-key. And when the tax U-key are plugged into the tax control server, and then you send the data prepared out of your internal system, you will be able to send the information to tax bureau and issue the OFD files. Secondly, it's also very important for the companies to be able to process the OFD files. In the global standard, the PDF file plays a very important role, so many of the systems will be able to handle PDF files very well. Unfortunately, the OFD file is quite localized in China, so we would require any of the digital solution will be able to process the OFD file, such as preview the OFD file to check if this OFD file has been properly encrypted. Some function like this will be a requirement of such digital solution. And lastly, it's about the fapiao auto delivery, because in the old days, when you printed the paper fapiao, you have to call some carrier, and then it will be delivered by some carrier in the physical location. In the future, once you issue the OFD file, it could be automatically sent to your customer by some emails. So it's also important for the companies to consider how you make it through this channel, the email channel, which email box you are going to use as the sender, and who will be your receiving party of the invoice. Okay, now next we can talk about a little bit more about the purchasing side. Next page, please. The first main scenario on the purchase side is when you have invoice from your vendors. The most popular way we feel to receive the electronic fapiao from your vendor will be through email. And a lot of our clients, they already have some public mailbox to receive some settlements or some notification from the vendor. And we think this kind of email box will be extended to receive the e-invoice. So a good digital solution should be able to monitor those kind of mailbox, and it will have the capability to identify if the email coming in contains some electronic invoice. It's not an easy job because there will be various ways to send the invoice to you, such as some companies, they will attach the OFD file directly in the email and send it in the email. Some of the companies, they may bundle a lot of OFD files together in a zip file, or some of companies, they are using some URLs that you have to click the link and download the OFD file. So that's why it's important for the system solution to be smart enough to distinguish which can be easily processed by the system and which maybe still need some human intervention. Moreover, in addition to the mailbox, it will be even better if we can have another way to fetch search e-invoice, and currently it is all possible because the golden tax system has some interface published through some service providers. So you can connect to the golden tax database and synchronize every single invoice the vendor issued to you every day. Because the OFD files are very well structured, so once you get an OFD file from your email, you can easily compare those OFD files versus which you have got from the tax bureau's database. And this will serve the purpose of electronic fapiao authentication to make sure every invoice you received is the real invoice. Also, during this process, when you receive the OFD file, companies can also place some business rules for check, such as if you are requiring the PO number to be placed in somewhere in the invoice, or if you want to block some vendors that you don't want to do business with, this can also happen during the phase of receiving the invoice. The next page, please. And besides the vendor invoice, it's also an important data source from your travel and expense reimbursement. In this scenario, the most challenging thing about the T&E is to collect the original copy from the employees. Because it's mandatory in China to keep the original copies as they stated in the accounting document filing regulation. You have to keep the original copy for quite a long time, and at this moment it's still like 30 years. So a lot of our clients, they are doing this in quite different way, and I will say not every one of them meets strictly the requirements. Because currently only very limited portion of the invoice is electronic. It's the general invoice, and it's not quite related to VAT. However, when the e-special invoice comes, it will be much more serious to manage those original copies very well for further inspection. So what we suggest is if you are considering some digital solution, this solution will offer some mobile capability in order for the employees easier to get the invoice for submission. And also the checkpoints. There are some checkpoints like to check if the invoice has been reimbursed before. They can be moved up front. For example, once the employee collects the invoice in the mobile phone, and when he or she wants to submit it, the system could tell the employee immediately if this invoice has been submitted before. This will be a very good, helpful tool to check the duplication, because the duplication of reimbursement may be one of the largest risk and challenge in the world of e-fapiao. We are not saying some employee will intentionally do so, but it's really hard for the employee as well as for the reviewer to remember which invoice has been submitted or not. So a system solution will be definitely helpful. But please don't forget, there are still a lot of other types of invoices in China, such as the train tickets, the airfare tickets, or some taxi receipts. They are still in paper format. So this T&E digital solution would also have the capability to handle both electronic files as well as paper files. This will have some very high demand to have this digital solution be able to recognize the paper invoice, and it's in various formats. So we will suggest that the companies can consider if we want to upgrade our current expense system to be able to have some quite advanced OCR technology in order to auto-classify the invoice and recognize the necessary data fields. The technology is quite ready and mature at this moment, and it's companies' choice and consideration if they want to leverage such technology. And similar to vendor scenarios, companies can also put a lot of expense order rules up front. For example, if we want to check the invoice is overdue, they can put the rules in this solution, and the employee will know at once. Okay, next page, please. Now, last but not least, it's also important to properly preserve the e-fapiao, because we already mentioned that it's still the regulation to keep the original accounting documents for a very long time, and the OFD is definitely one of the most important original copies of your accounting voucher. But the good news is the OFD is quite good in size, so it would be easier to keep for quite a long time. But it still needs 30 years, as at present the regulation still states you have to keep them for 30 years. Moreover, it's also very important for the digital solution to be easily query the invoice and its related documents for the inspection and the statutory from the authorities. So the digital solution should be able to support multi-dimension inquiry, which means you can inquiry your invoice by some invoice number or invoice date. You may also be able to inquiry this invoice by some related data like your accounting voucher number, your vendor code, and some other business-related fields. So this will require the digital solution to be able to link the electronic fapiao with any of the supportings. Okay, now next page, please. We talked enough about the invoice itself. And like Candy mentioned earlier, the trend in tax authority is shifting from managing the 发票 paper to the governance of 发票 related data. So if we can manage the electronic invoice efficiently, we can consider to extend the digital solution for more wider areas, such as tax filing, the tax risk alert, the tax data analytics. It could be also on your roadmap to build a total solution for more efficient and compliant tax management. Okay, so we talked about our system solution, and now I would like to share a few cases of what our clients are doing. The first case is a quite famous sports fashion group. The pain point of them is that they have very large volume of invoices, so the RPA will not be a proper solution for them. So they go for the digital T-suite and use the system to cooperate among different teams within the group. A single repository of input VAT invoice are established in this company, and it will be able to automatically recognize both paper invoice and extract information from electronic invoice. We place over 30 validation rules during the invoice processing process, so it will be also helpful to improve their efficiency in document reviewing. And the interesting thing is they hired a few agents to do or outsourcing companies to do the invoice check, and with the help of the system, we will estimate the cost to the third-party agents may be cut down to a quite proper level. And the next use case is another company. Next page, please. This case is another company that is doing trading in some mechanic goods. The pain points of this client is they have very huge amounts in invoice issuance, and they have to keep an agent who has like 8 head accounts for 8 of their local sites. With the help of digital T-suite, even before the e-invoice is coming, it already brings the 发票 issuance in a shared service mode, so that the 发票 data and the issuance action can be centralized. Only some printing or printers are left in the local sites. So it's already achieved like about 25% cost saving, just because of they are using some centralized system to do the invoicing. And moreover, we will estimate that if the e-invoicing is coming, they will achieve like over 50% cost saving in the future, because there will be the local printers will be eliminated, the delivery of the physical invoice will be eliminated. So with the help of the centralized invoice issuance system, the cost saving will be much higher. And the last case we would like to share is based on the RPA technology, which is the robotics. And this company is quite special because they are especially restricted in IT security, and they are quite restricted also in the global IT resource. So it's very hard for them to be introduced to some new systems. So the RPA will work like a new employee of this company. It has the capability to monitor every single email box of their vendors' invoicing receiving email, and it's very efficient to read every single email in only a few seconds. then it can just fetch the e-invoice from the mailbox, and then do some data extraction, and then it will upload this structured data to their SAP for auto posting. The most interesting thing is this project only goes live in 6 weeks. So, and makes this company one of the first companies that are ready to collect those electronic invoices. And we think for those companies that can start with not such large volumes, or they want to look to a very flexible and rapid solution to start with, the RPA is also one of the best alternatives they have. Okay, that's all of my part, and now I give it back to Lily.
Okay, thanks, Roger. This brings us to the end of our today's discussion. We now have some time to respond to some questions from our audience. Okay, here we have a question. We established a company in Shanghai years ago, so it is not a new taxpayer. When the electronic VAT special invoice will be extended to the existing taxpayers, like our Shanghai company? Okay, Candy, I think this question is for you.
Yeah, sure, Lily. This is one of the most frequently asked questions recently. As we mentioned at the beginning, the detailed timeline is yet to be published by the tax authorities. But the regulation is almost there, as the newly established tax companies have already joined the e-special invoice pilot program. Well, the main problem is actually on the system side, especially on the system stability and the capability to process very huge invoicing volumes if all taxpayers come in. Hence, it is generally expected that the electronic VAT special invoice pilot would be rolled out to more existing taxpayers step by step gradually, with the goal to expand to all by the end of 2021, especially in the major cities like Beijing and Shanghai.
Okay, thanks, Candy. So given the timeline is still not clear for existing companies, what should the company do to prepare for this challenge in advance? Any advice?
Yes, this is a good question. We actually shared some suggestions, and the main reason is because the lead time between when the rules are released and come into effect maybe only a couple of months, so the time left for the taxpayers to get ready may not be sufficient, especially for large group companies. Hence, we would recommend your company to get started as soon as possible, at least on some preparatory work. For example, revisit the current invoicing process and map to the future to be processed under the e-special invoice scheme. On this basis, explore what are the gaps to be fixed and what are the actions to be taken from process, system, and labor force perspective. And also for some big companies who are heavily relying on systems to automatically generate the VAT invoices or process purchase invoices, they can start talking to their IT vendors to understand the system changes that would need to be made, timeline and cost, etc., so as to do the budgeting in advance. And also for some companies who want to utilize this e-invoice opportunity to optimize the current process, they can also start thinking the actions to be done. So each company can assess and determine what actions to be taken at this moment, depending on their own situation and complexity.
Thanks, Candy. Hey, Roger, I think this question is for you. what is the challenge and the difficulty to have a digital solution to handle the e-fapiao?
Thanks, Lily. That's a good question. Because we are working with a lot of global companies in China. So the first challenge we feel is the global communication and get the understanding and IT support from the global IT team. Some of our companies, they even have trouble in installing the OFD reader, which means they are not even able to open the e-invoice, which maybe cause a big issue. And the second thing is about some of our clients, they have some over-scoping expectation, trying to do more than this. However, because the e-invoicing is coming very soon, we feel like the scope will be quite focused, and we will recommend the company to consider to survival first in receiving and issue the fapiao well, instead of make it a very complex solution. And last but not least is the company itself. Some of our clients, they are still lack of rules and standardization in the invoice management. So we feel no system can work well without proper rules. It's very important for companies to streamline the process and standardize some business rules before we directly start to build some system solution. Thanks, Lily.
Thanks, Roger. Okay, well, that unfortunately is all we have time for. Kenny and Roger, thank you. And also special thanks to all of you who were able to join us today. We would like to encourage you to fill out the short survey that will pop up on your screen and tell us what you think about today's program. If you join us late, please note that this presentation will be archived for future viewing. If you feel that others would benefit from this webcast, please share the webcast via the share this icon or have them visit the debrief's website. We will respond to all the questions submitted during the webcast in a couple of weeks. Also, if you think of any other questions or comments later, please feel free to reach out either to me or to our speakers. We would be more than happy to talk to you. And please don't forget to tune into our next scheduled webcast. The topic is emerging production-linked incentives programs, a bond for new investments in India. At last, from all of us at Deloitte, thank you for your participation in Deloitte's Asia Pacific tax webcast today. Thank you. Bye.